Okay guys, so today we're going to be practicing using the grid technique to copy an image. We're going to be practicing using an image of a cartoon character of your choice. We're going to use this website that I've given you to create the grid on top of the image digitally. So this is the website. It's timgagnon.com/grid, and it looks like this. This is Proportion Grid Creator. So once you get here, you're going to click Start. And then it starts by giving you a couple options. The first option is you choose the orientation, which is either portrait or landscape. That just entirely depends on what your original image looks like. If your original image looks something like this, where the sides of the image are longer than the top and the bottom, then that would be a portrait orientation. However, if your image looks more like this, where the top and bottom are longer than the two sides, then that would be a landscape orientation. So it all just depends on your original image. I'm going to use this image of Bugs Bunny, so I'm going to choose landscape. And then the canvas size, we're going to set it to 8 by 10. All right, so for the next step, I'm going to choose my photo. And I'm just going to go in from my computer and open it, upload it, and then click the next step. Next step gives me the option to rotate if I need to, but I don't need to, so I'm just going to go to the next step. This next step is really important, which is where you're going to crop it, because you might not be able to fit the entire image into that 8 by 10 section. So like, for example, I'm only able to fit like this much. So I clicked and dragged to make the rectangle bigger, and then I just clicked and moved it around to select which area I wanted. So I'm not going to be able to fit the whole image in this case in the 8 by 10 area, so I'll just cut off his feet a little bit. All right, so again, all you got to do is click the image, drag to make the rectangle bigger, and then move it around until you get the area you want. You might be able to fit your whole image in, you might not, just depends. And then it's really important that after you selected the area you want, you have to make sure you click crop photo. If you don't click crop photo, it's not actually going to crop it, and it's going to end up messing up your grid. Okay, so after that, we go to next step. So now these are the options for the lines of the grid. So we are going to make sure the line spacing is 1 inch apart. I'm going to set my line thickness to right in the middle to 3, because 1 would be a thinner line, 5 would be a thicker line. I'm just going to set it right in the middle, and I'm going to make the lines black, and then I'm going to click download, and then it will download my picture that has my grid on top of it all ready to go. So if you set the line thickness to 3 and you don't like that line thickness, it's either too thin or too thick for you, you can always change the line thickness, but the line spacing you need to make sure stays at 1 inch. Okay, so now we have the grid on top of the photo. Now we need to label the grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this other website, addtext.com, and we're going to use this to add labels to our grid. So I'm going to upload it from the computer. It's in my downloads. All right, so here it is. So we need to add labels to the different boxes of the grid, so that way when we're actually drawing, we know where we are in the grid. So I'm going to set honestly, the easiest text to read on this website is the meme text, so I'm just going to select that. I'm going to select the size at 20, and then I'm going to start with the letter A. Basically how this is going to work is on whatever the longer side of my image is, I'm going to be labeling it A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. And then on the shorter side, I'm going to be labeling it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I added the A to the first square. I'll click Add Text again to add another letter. I'll type the letter B. I'll add the B to this next square up here. Then I'll click Add Text again, this time letter C. And then I'll add it to this third square. So going on the longer side, again, I'm going to label it with letters A, B, C, D, and so forth. And then on the shorter side, I'm not going to go all the way across because that would take too long, so I'm just going to show you how to do the numbers. So I'm also going to do numbers starting with 1 on the shorter side, which again, it starts in the first square. So this first square would be A1. Then, oops, I don't want to do that. I want to click Add Text again, and then I want to type the number 2. 2 goes in the next square down. So then this square right here would be A2. Then I'm going to click Add Text again. This time put the number 3. That goes in the next square down. So then this square would be A3. So this top corner is A1, then A2, A3, and then once you get to the next column, the B column, then you have B1, B2, B3, and then the next column would be C1, C2, C3, and so on. So you'd go all the way across the longer side of your picture with the letters going from A through J, and then on the shorter side of your picture, you'd go all the way down with the numbers going from 1 through 8. And then you would just, once you're done adding all the labels, you would click download or share, and you can just click download and it saves it to the computer. So that is how you add the grid digitally on top of your image, and then you add the labels of the letters and the numbers. Okay, so now we're going to be drawing the grid on a piece of paper. The pieces of paper you probably have at home are either 9 by 12 or 8.5 by 11. You can use either one, but either way we're going to have to cut it down to 8 by 10. So I'm taking an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and I'm just cutting it down to 8 inches by 10 inches by just making a mark at those points and then drawing lines and then cutting off the excess. So now I have cut it down to 8 inches by 10 inches. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my grid. I'm going to make a mark at every inch and then use those marks to make lines. And then I'll do it the other direction as well, so I'll make a mark at every inch. And then use those marks to make more lines crossing over so that we end up with a 1 inch by 1 inch grid. So now I'm going to label my grid. On the longer side of my paper, I'm going to label it with letters from A through J. And on the shorter side of my paper, I'm going to label it with numbers from 1 through 8. And you should have the same grid on your photo, and the reason that we label it with the letters and the numbers is so we actually know where we are on the grid. So when you're drawing inside a certain square, you know based on how it's labeled. Say if you're in square D4, you want to make sure that square D4 on your paper looks the same as square D4 on your original image. So that's why it's really important to label the grid like that so that we actually know where we are on the drawing so that we're drawing it accurately. So paying attention to your labels, making sure everything's in the right square, you'll just use your grid to copy your image.